first.
It was funny you mentioned that because we were talking about James Harden, to me, became that storyline where he had a double-double, but not the right kind of double-double. 14 points and 13 turnovers, setting an NBA playoff record for most turnovers in a game. And I'm always a big believer that if you're going to be a superstar, you want to be accorded superstar status. You can't have a game 3 you disappeared. Game 4 you had 45 points, 33 points in the second half. And you could tell game 5 last night, he knew he didn't have it. His teammates felt that, and they had absolutely no trust in him because he did not have any trust in himself. I'll give him a lot of credit for facing the media and say, you know what, it is what it is. I'm not making excuses. I have to be better. But for me, if you're going to be on that level where you feel you are next to LeBron James, next to Steph Curry, next to Kevin Durant when he's healthy, you can't have a disappearing act in game 3, a heroic act in game 4, and a disappearing act in game 5. To me, once again, as much as I want to defend James Harden, I can't defend that when in a game that you have to have again, you go out there and you gave the ball away. It looked like he was in a bakery with so many turnovers that he was the best assist man for Golden State other than the 2 guards playing for that basketball team. That's the one thing that really jumped out to me, that I wanted James Harden to play well, even if they lost, but just to see a performance like that from a guy that continues to have his star rise, to me that was pretty disturbing to see that from James Harden again.
I would say a couple of things stuck out to me. Number one, we need to respect Little B and that base guy curse.
That is the way to
Well
go.
said.
We need to respect.
No, seriously. I text our social media manager. I said, okay, so explain the curse to me again so I know that I don't get caught up in it. So, yeah, no, seriously.
Don't do any dance that looks like you're cooking.
Yeah,
okay?
hello?
Don't do that.
Without giving him said props.
Correct. Okay. If you're going to do it, you just got to give him the props, and then you're good.
All right.
That's all you got to do.
He'll lift said curse.
For example, if you saw the Cavs after they won, they did the dance while they were in the hot tub doing the video on J.R. Smith's Instagram, and then he warned them on Twitter.
I know.
And Iman Shumpert responded to him, saying, hey, no disrespect. We will give you the props. It is your dance, and thank you for letting us use it.
A Lil B takeover. What can possibly go wrong there?
Little B was in the crowd. He was actually taunting them. There's Instagrams of him out there just kind of walking up and down behind the Rockets bench.
That's a takeaway from the playoffs, is it not?
Little B.
Leave it there. Let's just leave it there.
Little B is much more powerful than most people thought. You got to believe in Little B now. The other thing, though, in all seriousness, you start to wonder about Dwight Howard and James Harden as your lead guys. Can those be guys that you can sit there and say, those are the cornerstones for a championship? Now, I think James Harden gets a little too much grief. Obviously, he had a terrible game yesterday, but he's had some good games in this series. Now, we're going to remember the turnover in Game 2. We're going to remember this, but he's had some really productive games. There's a reason he was second in the MVP voting. Now, the other part about Dwight is, yesterday's game was the perfect example of Dwight Howard. At the beginning of that game, you were like, whoa. I mean, what's going on? This is the Dwight we expected to see, the 2009 throwback Dwight who carried the Magic to the NBA Finals. And then he starts doing things, he starts losing control, and he starts getting teed up, a couple of dirty plays, and you start to go, oh. This is the guy Kobe Bryant was talking about that he didn't want to play with. I didn't feel that he had it to move forward. Now, I don't believe in that kind of stuff, the existential mumbo-jumbo, but I'll tell you this, what you saw on display yesterday is the perfect example of Dwight. You just never know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, he always seems like one beat off of what he's supposed to be doing, and I think we even talked on First Take a couple weeks back about, will Dwight ever win a title? And the only place I could land where I saw him being on a championship team was when he was that role player guy coming off the bench at the end of his career, because as you said, when you put him in one of your top 2 guys, James Harden, Dwight Howard, and he's got to be one of your key guys, he always just seems like he's 20 degrees off from where you need him to be on every given night. And my takeaway last night was that the Rockets are in one of the most difficult places you can be in the NBA. Of course, it's really, really tough when you're terrible like the Sixers are right now and you're building from scratch. But the Rockets are in that place where they kind of need Daryl Morey here to make some key moves at 3 through 7. If you think you're good with Dwight Howard and James Harden, there's some debate there, right? Whether you'd say, all right, can Dwight Howard be that guy for you? But 3 through 7, you need to really find those pieces like Golden State has found those pieces. Or if you look at Cleveland, even the way those guys are responding, maybe that's a little different because when you play with LeBron, he just kind of makes guys respond. But that's a really tough place for them. And watching Houston throughout this playoffs, I never thought they were that team. All right, they made the conference finals, and then next year you see that sort of like wave sweeping momentum, and like that wasn't it for them. They sort of got to the finals, and I'm like, that's it. That's all they're going.
They had some moments, George, and I just want to go back to what you said, because we're questioning Harden and Howard. And we often want to say for teams to make it there, they need a one player that can take them to the championship, to the promised land. Let's talk about Harden. He's been getting a lot of slack for not being built for the postseason. Would that be accurate?
See, I don't know if that's accurate. Again, I think he's put up good numbers and he's had good games. Yesterday aside, I mean, 2 for 11 and the 13 turnovers. But even in that game where he was getting destroyed for that last play and the fact that he was doubled by Clay and Steph, he had 38 points in that game. He was 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. So this notion that he's not built for the playoffs, I don't believe that. I just wonder if he's the guy that you need to be the lead dog on a team.
So he's not.
But I'm not talking about from a basketball standpoint, from an X's and O's standpoint. I'm talking about just mentally, and that's the question.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Built for it.
I don't buy into that as much. I mean, on my podcast, 538 Hot Take. I know you got a podcast.
Yes, I do. We'll plug it a little later on. I love it.
You can't brand yourself, then why are you here?
But we did. We talked a lot about do stars matter, and specifically in the NBA. And actually, statistically, when you looked at it, they were not as directly responsible for championships as you might think. So when I talk about the Rockets, and you're like, well,
you're saying stars don't matter when it comes to winning championships?
Well, certainly, no.
Statistically,
they do matter, but do they matter the way we talk about them?
Okay.
Like you need your big 3, or you got in that it factor, and that one guy you have, and if that guy doesn't have it, you're not going to win it. So when that changed my viewpoint a little bit. So when I look at the Rockets and I see James Harden, he certainly has the qualities to be a championship team. That's why earlier I said it's about Daryl Morey with 3 through 7 on this team. That's what it's about. 3 through 7 on this team.
They tried to get Chris Bosh this offseason.
Of course.
And I think had they gotten someone like that, I think that they would be a lot different.
I don't doubt James Harden's ability to win a title with the Rockets.
Doubt it, but I don't think he's consistent, and I don't think he's the guy.
It's funny you mentioned that, because Colin Cowherd and I were talking about this before we came on the air today, and he said he read a stat in Forbes in which James Harden does not possess 6 of the qualities you need to have a leader that can lead a team to a championship. He doesn't possess that right now, but I'm hoping we're not seeing a Carmelo Anthony type situation. What I mean by that is Carmelo Anthony to me is at his best when you have a Chauncey Billups with him. Not saying he can't be the face of a franchise, but that doesn't mean he can be the leader of a franchise. Maybe a James Harden and a Dwight Howard, they need that guy to say, okay, you guys handle basketball. You go out there and do your thing. I'll take care of the locker room. Now, that's not to say that James Harden can't do that. Remember, he's still early in his career.
Yeah,
this guy got into the NBA. The guy got into the NBA with 20 years of age, because LeBron, everybody can't be LeBron. Where you were a leader in the sandbox, you were 3 years of age. There's only a few select people that can do that and transfer that to no matter what they're doing. So James Harden may have that. We'll have to wait and see. But maybe at this point, if you're the Houston Rockets, not saying Jason Terry can't be the leader anymore in your basketball team. He's well past his prime. They have to have a guy they look at and say, okay, that's a guy that I know can do what we need him to do. And when we need him to produce like a Paul Pierce, we know he can do that. I think right now that's where Houston is. James Harden may not be ready to be that leader yet. So you better bring somebody in that can show him exactly how it is to do that, understand it, and then maybe can take Houston to where they feel they have to go.
Okay, George, wait. Dwight Howard, 29 years old. He'll be 30. Let's focus on him. A lot of people give him the reputation of being a clown, not mature enough, not really wanting it. Doesn't have that skills. I'm just telling you what people say. This is true. It's not new.
You said that.
I do agree with that as well. I don't think he's mature enough. I don't think he wants it badly. You tell me your take. Is he the leader for that team?
See, I don't question whether he wants to win badly enough. I do question his maturity some. I think that you talk to people around the league, they feel that that's the case, and that seems to be a consensus around the league as far as maybe he's not mature enough to handle certain things and certain aspects of being the leader of a team. Certainly from a talent perspective, I don't think no one can question that. And the same thing with Harden. You're talking about 2 of the most talented players we have in the entire league. It's that, and again, I hate basing it on intangibles, but it's just that one aspect, and maturity comes with that. LeBron wasn't the mature guy he was 5 years ago that he is today. You get Harden through experience, and you either let that mold you, or you just brush it off and say, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to keep doing it the way I want to do it. And when you look at Dwight, yesterday he made the comment that he's a champion. And that stuck out in a lot of people's craws, because you're like, well, wait a second. I mean, I get that you want to have the confidence to say that you think your team can be a champion, but you're not a champion until you have the title to back it up. And I think that becomes part of the equation here with him. But look, Daryl Morey deserves a lot of credit.
No question.
He built a team that a lot of people mocked and said, oh, analytics, this, that, and the other, it doesn't matter. And he wanted a third guy. He wanted a Chris Bosh. And maybe that's what they need. Maybe, look, I know LaMarcus Aldridge is a free agent this year. Maybe Kevin Love becomes a free agent this year. Maybe that's what they need, just a third piece to really take them to that next step.
Yeah, they had one in Chandler Parsons. Unfortunately, let it get away. He could have been a potential third piece.
I just don't see him, though, as a big enough piece, Chandler Parsons.
In this series,
let's be real, though. Until those guys cross the threshold of winning an NBA title, we constantly say they're not capable.
Sure.
And then
Right,
it's often
because they show not to be capable.
It's often a retroactive sort of they've passed through the threshold, and then we're like, oh, he can do it. Okay, yes, he can do it. And
I don't know. We don't feel that way about Russell Westbrook. We don't feel that way about Kevin Durant, do we? I feel like they can get a champion.
When you look at Dwight Howard, and to Kate and George's point, we have facts to tell us, okay, you can't do it. Because we've seen him, I mean, in Orlando's a different situation. He was basically one guy with 4 shooters. They had a great run getting to the NBA
Stan Van
Finals.
Gundy did a great job with that team.
Tremendous as a head coach. And Hedo Turkoglu was great as that fourth quarter killer. But you can't go out there and say, I'm a champion. I don't care what anybody else says. We can say, well, no, you're not. You can't say things like that if people are going to respect you as a leader.
Fair or not, you're judged by rings. And it's the same situation LeBron's going to be in, you know, whether he wins or loses. At the end of your career, you're judged by that. Fair or unfair, that's the reality of it.
Fair. On June 4th,